What's up, class? It's Mr. Wicklehouse, and today we're talking about absolute value equations. Absolute value. What is absolute value? Absolute value is a number distance away from zero. So, for instance, how far away from zero is 3? That's right, 3. How far away is from 0 is -3. Well, it's 3 spaces away. But distance can't be a negative number, therefore an absolute value always creates a positive number. Okay? It does not change the sign. Alright. So let's think about this for a minute. Find the following absolute values. What's the absolute value of 8? That is correct, it is 8. What's the absolute value of -8? Well, how far is -8 away from 0? It's 8 away, so it's 8. What's the absolute value of -4.5? That is correct, it is 4.5. Absolute value of 4.5 is still 4.5. What's the absolute value of x? Well, it has to be x. And the absolute value of -x? That's also x. Okay. It doesn't matter whether the inside number is positive or negative, the absolute value remains the same. So in other words, the distance away from 0 is always going to be that positive number, no matter what the number is. Okay. Now let's look at some absolute value equations. This is different from other equations because when we talk about absolute value equations, we have to think about both the positive and negative, because this says the absolute value of x is equal to 1. Well, there's two solutions to that. We've got x equals 1 and x equals -1, because both of these are exactly 1 away from 0. Okay. Let's look at this one. We have to set these up so that there's two equations. X minus 1 equals 2 and x minus 1 equals -2, because both of these will result in the same solution. Okay, so we add 1 to both sides, x equals 3. Add 1 to both sides, x equals -1. Okay. The key to doing these is doing two separate equations. Let's look at this one. This is 2x equals 4, and then the second equation is 2x equals -4. It's just the positive and negative of whatever the number is over here. Divide by 2, I get x equals 2. Divide by 2 here, I get x equals -2. Okay? Look at this one. Again, I'm setting up two separate equations. 2x plus 1 equals 5. 2x plus 1 equals -5. Subtract 1, I get 2x equals 4. Subtract 1, I get 2x equals -6. Divide by 2, I get x equals 2. Divide by 2, I get x equals -3. Okay. Two equations for one absolute value problem. Here's another little stipulation. When we're solving absolute value equations, the absolute value has to be by itself before we can solve. Okay, so for this one, I've got the absolute value of x plus 1 equals 7. Well, I have to get the absolute value by itself first, so I have to subtract 1. So now I've got the absolute value of x equals -1, 6. Now I could set up my two different equations. So I get x equals 6, x equals -6. See? Alright, let's look at this one. This one I'm going to divide by negative 3. So I get x plus 4 equals negative 15 divided by negative 3. A negative and a negative make a positive. That's going to be 5. Okay, now I'll set up my two equations. X plus 4 equals 5. X plus 4 equals negative 5. Subtract 4, I get x equals 1. Subtract 4, I get x equals negative 9. Okay, think about these last two on your own, and then we'll talk about it more in class tomorrow. Alright, here's an interesting little fact. You cannot have negatives. So absolute value cannot ever be a negative solution. So look at this. So if I wanted to solve this, I see the absolute value of x equals negative 2. If you have an absolute value of something and it's equal to a negative number, after you do get everything away from the absolute value, there is no solution to that absolute value equation because we can't have negative distance. Right? Well, let's look at this one. Subtract 1 from both sides. I get the absolute value of x minus 3 equals negative 5. Now I know there's stuff in here still that you could do, but as soon as you get the absolute value by itself and it's equal to a negative, there's going to be no solution because it can't be negative. Okay? I want you to try this one, and we'll talk about it in class tomorrow. Make sure you solve it out. Alright? Alright. Couple more things and we'll be done. Alright. So, we want to continue solving and then try graphing this. Okay? So we'll solve our inequality first, and then we'll try to graph it on a number line. So we're going to subtract 5. I've got 4, absolute value of x minus 3. I subtract 5 from both sides. 21 minus 5, that is 16. Divide by 4. I get the absolute value of x minus 3 equals 4. 16 divided by 4 is 4. Now we got to set up our two equations. X minus 3 equals 4, and x minus 3 equals negative 4. Add 3 to both sides, I get x equals 7. Add 3 to both sides on this one, I get x equals negative 1. Here's a nice pretty number line. Let's fill in the rest. Negative 9, negative 7, negative 5, negative 3, negative 1, 1, 3, 5, 7, and 9. One of our solutions here is x equals 7. So we'll come here on 7 and put a dot. The other solution is x equals negative 1. I come down here to negative 1 and I put a dot. There's our two solutions to this inequality. Okay? And that's it, guys. We'll talk some more about some stuff tomorrow. Have a good day.